Welcome to the Relationship Series podcast. My name is Ankush Jain, and each episode I'll be speaking to a different state of mind expert on the subject of relationships. Enjoy. Welcome to episode 38 of the Relationship Series. This episode I've got with me Veronique Pivetta. She's a 3 Principles state of mind coach and trainer based in Belgium. She works with individuals, groups and companies in Belgium and internationally, and she works in 3 different languages, Dutch, French and English. Welcome, Veronique.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this interview. You're someone that we've tried to get onto the series a while ago, and for various technical difficulties, my message didn't get through, but I'm really glad that we have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm also looking forward to this interview because we're going to be covering a slightly different topic than many other interviews, which seem to be about relationships. And your expertise, should I say, since when we spoke earlier, was really around dating and questions that people have about dating prior to getting into a relationship. And that's not something we've covered a great deal in this series. So I'm looking forward to going through that with you today.
Perfect.
So before we start, for people that haven't heard of you, they don't know who you are, apart from the couple of lines that I've just mentioned, could you introduce yourself, who you are, and how did you get into this, and how did you become an expert on dating?
Mm-hmm. Well, I started off this whole journey of becoming a coach, like to start with, thanks to a book by Michael Neal. And somehow I got so touched by that book that I completely left behind my previous life. I quit my job. I got rid of most of my stuff. There was like a before and after. So I left all of this behind and I went to Santa Monica to study with Michael Neal on Supercoach Academy. And there I started learning about the principles. And one of the areas that were in my life that were the most impacted by my coaching training was the area of dating, because this has really always been a really, really important thing for me, like the area of relationships and dating. But somehow it had always been up to that point a really difficult area, like not necessarily like objectively difficult, but it felt difficult. I was always like very stressed about it, and I had a lot of thinking about it, and it wasn't an enjoyable, relaxed thing for me. It was like a big deal, like a heavy thing. And the more I learned and the more I developed my understanding, during my coaching training, the more I saw that it became something very light and very easy, and that I could help other people in that area as well.
You mentioned the word 3 principles. For people who don't understand that, could you just say a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, basically, it's just learning to understand how your mind works. And once you understand how your own mind works, you start to see that everyone else's mind works the same. So basically, it's just a way to understand yourself, how you function, and to understand other people and how they function, which is very helpful if you're going to date or if you want to go and have a relationship. So that's, in short, that's what it means. It's very simple.
And I'm really curious. So you came across this understanding, this what I call state of mind understanding, and this was about 5 years ago.
It was mid 2011, something like that.
Yeah, so about 5 years ago. What changed for you in dating, kind of prior prior to this training, and now? How is it different? How would someone experience Veronique differently on a date now compared to before?
I think the most important thing that changed is that one thing I understood is that really you can use your mind in two ways, and they're mutually exclusive. Like you can be in an enjoyment mode where your mind is free and you take in the moment and you take in the other person and you're just enjoying yourself, which is really has to do with how your mind is functioning, because it has to do with your mind being very relaxed and open and kind of with, thoughts being free flowing, and is this kind of state of just being relaxed and being like really open. And then the other way that you can use your mind is to be in a very analytical, evaluative mode, where like you're actively thinking about what the other person says, and you evaluate it and you think, is this the right mate? And do I want to spend my whole life with this person? And how does he compare to my exes? And like those are two completely different modes. Like you can either be enjoying yourself and enjoying your date, or you can be in your head, like focusing on what you think and what you want and the past and the future and how this person compares to and how this person is doing on certain criteria. And it's really one or the other. Like you can't really be doing both. You can't say, well, I really enjoyed this date, and at the same time I was checking off my list of, like how they're doing and how I'm doing and like how they compare to other people I know. So it's like, and I really, before I understood what I understood now, I was just really bad at enjoying the moment. Like that mode was kind of like, I had never learned that before. Like I was very good at like doing the other mode, the evaluative judgmental mode, like thinking about what the other person was saying and thinking about whether it was good or bad, and like thinking about whether this person liked me or not, and whether I liked the person or not. So it was somehow I had become very good at evaluating and judging. And I don't mean this in a bad way, because I could be evaluating them positively, or judging them positively, but I was still very much in my head. And when I understood what I understood now, I discovered this other mode where you drop out of your head and you just drop into the moment. And then the moment can fill you up. And this other person, you can take in this other person and you can take in the moment. And it's really one or the other.
But isn't it really natural just to have that on a first date? When you're sitting down, you don't know them. Surely people would say, well, that's normal.
Well, I do think it's natural, but I don't think it's normal practice. And I have to say that probably guys are much better at this than women. Like I think guys are usually better at dating than women, because guys don't get in their head as much when they're dating. Like I think guys naturally retain this ability to just kind of just enjoy the date, like just hang out, But
that wasn't me when I was dating. I put my hand up. No, not.
Well, but in general, I think like you will see when you talk to women about dating, they just have a lot of thinking about dating, and women tend to date as a means to an end. Like they're on a date, and they're not just on a date to have a good time and enjoy this person. They're on a date because they want to find a husband, or because they want to have children one day and they're in a hurry. Or so it's kind of, women tend to have more thinking around finding the right partner, and guys very often are much more able to just enjoy themselves and say, well, I don't know where this will lead, but let's just have a nice evening. At least that's like my experience from talking to people. I don't know how you, like, if you've had the same, if you feel the same, like based on the people you've talked with.
I guess speaking from a guy's point of view, I can't say how women have a lot on their mind or not, but I know that there have been times, perhaps for myself when I was younger, that I used to have an awful lot on my mind when I was dating, and I know that there are other men who are like that as well. And probably there are men who don't have a lot on their mind, and there's probably women who don't have that on their mind. And what I'm hearing from you is that it's more effective to date with less on your mind, and we don't need to go into a date, or in fact any kind of first meeting of someone, working them out, judging them, thinking, trying to size them up, because you kind of miss being present in the moment with that person.
Yeah, it feels like you can either be with this person or be in your head, but it's really one or the other. Like if you notice yourself like thinking a lot and being in your head, you kind of know you lost the contact with the person in front of you. So it's almost like if you spend your whole date like really thinking and evaluating, and then after the date someone asks you like how was this person, like you would be the last person who could answer the question, because you don't know. Like all you heard was your own thinking, during the whole date. So you didn't have space to just take in the person and really know like what the person was like.
Is that the key to enjoying dating?
I think it is. And I think the best thing you can do to be really, really successful in dating is to go on a date with only one intention, and that's to enjoy this date as much as you can. Kind of regardless of like how this person is and where you are and what you're doing, and whether this person is the way you expect him or her to be or different. Like you just have one intention. You say, I just want to enjoy this person as much as I can. And it's kind of like an active thing. Like you just actively look for everything that you can enjoy on a date. It's like I found that if you look for things to enjoy, you see more and more. And if you look for things to criticize, you're going to see more and more of that. Like it's as if you're wearing glasses. Like it's you see a different person. You just, depending on what you want to see, you're going to see different things. That's my experience.
One of the questions that I've heard from both men and women is, when it comes to dating, is how do I let the other person down gently? If you've met someone and maybe the other person likes you, but you're not so keen on them, but you don't want to hurt their feelings. And I guess playing devil's advocate or just thinking about this, how do you relate enjoying someone if well, I don't think this is really going to work out, and you don't want to give the wrong impression? How do you balance those things?
I think really trying to enjoy the person as much as you can is actually always good for the other person. Like I don't think, because I hear what you're saying. It's an interesting question actually, because you're saying, am I kind of leading them on, or like giving them the impression that I like them, although like I don't like them that much, But the thing is, everyone really likes spending time with someone who seems to enjoy their company, regardless of how it turns out. Like I think everyone would rather have like a really nice date that doesn't lead to a second date than to have a horrible date. Like, and I think that's the thing. Like after a really nice date, if your feeling is, well, I don't really want to see this person again, it's quite easy, and you can do it quite elegantly. You can literally just say that. You can say, I actually did have a really nice date. Like I actually do think you're a really nice person, and I really enjoyed your company, but I don't feel that little like impulse to kind of bring it to the next level. Like I don't think I want to see you again, but you're a great person and I really enjoyed your company. Like, I think that actually is much nicer to hear than to say, well, like, actually, I don't like you at all. The date was horrible and I definitely don't want to see you again. Like, imagine if like all your dates were really lovely and some of them led to other dates and others were just lovely dates in their own right. Like, wouldn't that be like a really nice way to date? Like, I don't mind if after a date someone, would rather not see me again, but like, I as long as you've had a nice time, the date was a success to me. Like for me, if I had a really nice time and I enjoyed myself and I had a nice connection with someone, then the date was a success. That's how I know if the date was a success. I don't judge the experience based on like what will happen afterwards. And I really honestly I think it's much gentler to actually try to really enjoy the person and then honestly tell them, they're an enjoyable person, but you don't want to take the next step, than to like close off completely because you see something in this person you don't like become really cold, have a horrible date, and then close off by saying, and I never want to see you again. It's like for me, that would be much worse than having someone who actually really makes an effort to enjoy my company, like spend a really nice time with this person and then like you're free to decide whether you want to meet again or not.
Yeah. Yeah, and what occurs to me is that the time's going to go anyway. So if you're on a date, the time's going to go anyway. You might as well enjoy it rather than be in a miserable mood and just kind of put up with it and then go through that whole thing, which puts people off dating.
Yeah, and I think some people are really afraid of dating because because they have just bad experiences where dates are like from the first minutes you kind of know it's not going to lead anywhere, so you both kind of like it's as if you're not allowed to enjoy the date if you don't want to date this person for 10 years. But that's a waste of like perfectly that's the waste of a perfectly good occasion to enjoy yourself. Because you can have a good time with anyone regardless of whether you want to marry them. You can choose to see what's nice in the person. You can like look for things that you might have in common anyway. You can just relax and connect like human to human and even talk about like the kind of person you would like to meet. If you see really like quickly that it's not going to be something between the two of you, you can still have a really nice conversation about dating and the dates they had before and like the adventures you went on, like the horrible dates you had and the nice dates you had. Like, it can be a really nice experience anyway. But that it's only going to be a nice experience if you want it to be a nice experience. Because if you say, the moment I see that I don't want to see this person again, that's it. I close down. I'm watching my watch, to see if it's an acceptable time to leave. It's a kind of. I don't think that's the nicest way to use your time. You're sitting there anyway, so you might as well have a good time.
It's just a much nicer way to experience life, right? If you approach dating as a chore and, okay, I've got to go through something else and it's going to turn out terrible, God, I'll know straight away, but I'm going to have to endure dinner or drinks with this person. It's not fun. And then when you do meet someone that you potentially get on well with, you're maybe not bringing your best self because you're not used to that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, because you do get better at enjoying yourself the more you enjoy yourself. Because it's a certain use of the mind that if you're not used to using your mind in that way, like it's like any muscle. Like the more you use a muscle, the stronger it gets. And I think it's the same with this enjoyment mode. Like, the more time you spend in enjoyment mode, the better you become at enjoying. So you're absolutely right. Like, if you can't enjoy dates with people that you don't necessarily want to get married to, like, what makes you think you're going to be able to enjoy your dates like when you meet the person that could potentially be your mate for life, you know? It's kind of, you'd better start becoming good at enjoying yourself right now, you know, because you're going to need this skill, like in your whole life, you're going to need this skill. And like, it's just a great skill to practice. Like, it's fantastic. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
And I can certainly say from a man's point of view, I would say someone who's enjoying themselves is far, far, far more attractive than someone who's miserable and is hard work and is quiet and shy. And I'm guessing you're going to be saying the same from a woman's point of view, that if you go on a date with a guy who's at least enjoying themselves, that kind of goes a long way to them being more attractive in your eyes.
Absolutely. And I think there's also this sense that, there's this sentence that you probably heard in the coaching world, like needy is creepy. And I think it's really true in dating. Like if you're sitting in front of someone and like you can feel that they're not enjoying themselves and they think like you should be doing something so they enjoy themselves. Like it's almost like it's like you each have your own responsibility for your enjoyment. Like it's not really nice to be sitting with someone who like wants to be entertained. Like or like it's really, if you're not enjoying yourself, it's your own responsibility. That's the way I see it. And if you can both come to a date with that attitude, you're going to have a great time. Like, but you can't just sit there and wait for the other person to give you a good date, you know? And I think like that's where understanding the three principles, like the method of coaching that I'm using, is really useful, because when you start to understand that anything you experience is generated inside yourself, which is the basic premise of the three principles coaching, like your whole experience of life is generated within yourself from the inside out, then you're going to start to see that like the experience of a nice date is really something that's created within yourself. So I think something that people tend to do is be in a bit of a victim mode, like I didn't enjoy myself because he was not very nice, you know, or like, but I think that's looking at things in the wrong way. Like it's not useful to look at things that way. I think it's much more useful to turn it around and to say, well, what can I do to enjoy this date? Like, where can I find enjoyment within myself and how can I bring it to the date? And like the first advantage of that is that it feels really good. Like it feels really good to be enjoyment oriented. It's just a really nice feeling. But then the flip side of that, like the added bonus is that it feels good to the other person. It makes the other person feel like more relaxed and more secure because they don't have this extra job of making you enjoy the date. So they relax and like it brings out the best in them. Because if you know the other person is already having a good time, you're kind of off the hook and you can relax and you can show a nicer side of yourself, like a more relaxed side, a more confident side. So if you're enjoyment oriented, it feels good to you and it brings out the best in the other person. So it's kind of win more, you know? It's just like it's kind of a virtuous circle instead of a vicious circle. And it just works out better for everyone.
So let's say you're on a great date, you're enjoying yourself, you're laughing, you're having a good time. The other person seems to be, but how do you know if they like you? This seems to be a question that comes up quite a lot for both men and women. You know, well, if she plays with her hair, then she likes me, or if he says this, and you know, how do you work that out?
This might sound strange as an answer, but the more I think about that, the more I think the most useful direction to look is, again, to kind of look inside, like look at, kind of stop worrying about like how much the other person likes you and kind of look inside and see how much you can actually like really enjoy the other person. Because I have found that like true deep connection seems to be mutual. Like you kind of know, like if you're feeling really connected to a person and you're really enjoying the person, it's rarely like a one-way thing. Like it's usually both people feel it. It's like, you know, when you have a really, really good kiss, like it's almost impossible that the other person thought it was really horrible. Like it's usually you both know it was good, or you both know it was really bad. Like it's kind of, you know. But so the way to know, like this, I know this sounds really weird, but the way to know if the other person really likes you is to really feel like how do I feel? Like how connected do I feel? How warmly do I feel about this person? Because usually it will give you, you will know like how the other person experienced it too. And another side of that is that sometimes we're so focused on looking for, you know, like symptoms or signs, like to know if the other person likes you or not, that you get so focused on the other person and what they're feeling and what they're thinking that you actually forget to enjoy yourself and to enjoy the moment and to enjoy the date. So it's kind of your, by actively wondering about what the other person thinks, like you lose the connection. So you kind of, it's your overthinking it that kind of ruins it partly. So holding this question in your mind, like, how do I know if this person likes me? Like, doesn't work on several levels. Like, it doesn't work because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't work because it makes you lose the connection with the other person. And it doesn't work because ultimately, it's not the most important thing in the world, like what this person thinks about you. And we, especially, again, like I know from talking to many women, I have found that women are so worried about what other people think about them that they completely lose track of like how much they like the other person. Like you get so focused on wanting to be liked or wanting to be attractive or wanting to be wanted or wanted to be loved that you don't even know if you like the person. You only know that you want him to like you. You know, like it's actually more common than you'd think. Like women get so attached to like to being validated that they don't even know if they really like the guy. Like they just know they want to be liked. So I think this whole like the focus should be taken off like what the other person thinks about you completely. Because the less you think about it, the higher the chances that the person is actually going to like you and connect with you.
So, I mean, what about the rules though around dating? Because what else is coming up for me is, so again, you enjoy yourself, you don't worry about it, but then again, people kind of get stuck in, okay, I like her, or I think she likes me, or he likes me, I like him. Now, who makes the next move? Like, what are the rules around that? Because it seems to be that they've changed quite a lot. You know, you go back in the olden days, right, and it was very clear cut. The man asked the woman out, and he paid, and then now it's kind of seems for both men and women, it kind of seems a bit strange.
Well, I think it gets strange if you overthink it and if you make dating into a thing, like a thing that's different from other human interactions. Because what strikes me like time and time again is how easy it is to, for most people, to just like meet people and like become friends. You know, like if you think back of like your best friends from like high school and then your best friends from university and then some really good friends you met at work or whatever, like almost in every stage of your life you've made friends, right? And the thing is, like, if you think about how that happened, it was kind of like a non-issue. Like you start talking with someone at the coffee machine and you like the person and the person likes you and you're like, hey, like, do you want to hang out? Or like it's just like you don't think about it. Like all of a sudden you have all these friends in your life. Like it's very natural. And the thing is, why should dating be any different? Like why would it be any different? It's not any different. like you imagine you like you do online dating and you go on an actual physical date with the person, and you just you have a good time and you're enjoying yourself, and you think, well, I like this person, I want to see him or her again. Like, you can just say so, right? Like you would do with any friend. Like if you meet a person that you're absolutely not physically attracted to, and you like each other, and you exchange emails or phone numbers, like you wouldn't have any thought about writing to them like, hey, do you want to go to a movie? Because it's not a date. It's not like, it's just some person you like and you want to spend time with. Well, why would it be any different if it's a date? Like, I think we just overthink it completely, and we kill it because a normal, like healthy functioning person will just have a thought that comes up and will just see where it leads. Like, and there's no, like, if you don't have any thinking about like rejection and doing the right thing and appearing a certain way, you're just going to do whatever comes up, and it's probably going to be fine. Like if you want to see a person again, you say, hey, I'd love to see you again. If you don't, you say, hi, I'm really sorry, but actually, like, I don't really want to meet again. Like you just say it as it is.
Yeah, you don't prescribe to the rules that like the man needs to make the first move, or you need to wait so long between texting or whatever. I've heard all sorts of things from. I know there was a book called The Rules. He's got to message you twice for every time you message him, and there's stuff for guys like you need to wait 3 days before you call, and you don't prescribe to any of that.
I think if you're going to approach dating like that, you're going to end up in a very contrived, very stressful relationship because, ultimately, I think people would be better off going into long-term relationships with people that they feel so comfortable with that none of that seems to matter. Like, when you meet someone and you like the person so much and you're so comfortable with the person, you can just be yourself without an agenda, without overthinking it, without worrying about like trying to be anyone you're not. Like, none of that is going to matter. I think, like, we all meet people once in a while where we're just so comfortable with them. We just get full permission to just be ourselves and to say what we think and to just say whatever, like to propose any activity we want to propose. Like, it's just because why not? Like, actually, it's so interesting that we came up with this concept that, like, with friends you can just be yourself, but when you're dating you have to pretend to be something or someone, or like, but you're looking for a person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. Like, don't you think it would be a good start to just be yourself? Like, and act normal? Like, just act like a normal human being. Like, just approach it like you would start like a really cool friendship, because ultimately, if you want to spend your whole life with this person, they'd better be a real friend, not someone that you're always have to be guarded, with, and like in control, and like you don't want to have this whole strategy around how you interact with this person. Like, that's going to be exhausting. Imagine doing that for the rest of your life,
They'll
It's
find
like,
out eventually.
yeah, like you're you anyway. And I think deep down, we all want to be loved and appreciated exactly as we are, like, for who we are, with all our flaws and quirks. But the thing is, if you're not willing to be that person in the presence of the other person, how will you know if they actually love you or like you? Like, the earlier you can just be yourself, the earlier you'll know if you want to spend the rest of your life with this person, and if, like, they'll know too, right? Because the thing is, if you pretend to be something you're not, and then this other person really likes this fake you're going to need to keep it up for the rest of your life. Like, that's just horrible. So you might as well just be you, say the things that come up, do the things that you want to do. And if this person really likes you, then you're a great match. And if this person doesn't like that, then you'd better know as soon as possible, right? Because it's like, they need to love you just the way you are, really. They need to enjoy you just the way you are. And I don't think it's really helpful. I think you're only delaying finding your like life partner if you actually try to codify your behavior with rules and like made up conventions. Like the person is going to find out who you are at some point, right? And if he finds out in 20 years, like, I mean, I don't think that's a good strategy. Like the person would better find out who you are now. And if there is no match, like it's no big deal. Like you'll meet someone else.
Do you believe in the one?
No, I think we can all have a really exceptional, beautiful connection with different people throughout our lives. Because, like, I think connection is our nature. Like, honestly, I think if you take two, like, healthy, happy human beings, chances are they're going to connect pretty well. Like, I think it's, if you have really good mental health, you're probably going to have quite a few really good relationships. And then ultimately you're going, like, and then you're going to ultimately meet the person that maybe you want to grow old with. And like, maybe with that person, it will be till death do us part.
So are you saying people who aren't having good relationships, they're not mentally well?
Well, if I can be really, really honest, yes, I think mental health, true, deep mental health always leads to good relationships. Like to deep friendships and nice relationships, not necessarily easy relationships, but nice, like good relationships. Because if you're mentally healthy and you understand deeply, not just in your mind, but you feel that your happiness is generated inside of you and your enjoyment is generated inside of you, and you're quite balanced, like you have perspective when it comes to your thinking, you can let thinking go, you can, like, that's mental health for me. If you have that, you're going to find it quite easy to have nice relationships, to have good friendships, to have nice connections with strangers in a supermarket. Like, it's connection to another human being is no big deal if you're very healthy within your own mind. It's the most natural thing in the world.
Does this tie into the kind of more traditional dating advice of, you've got to like yourself first?
Well, I think so, yeah. And you have to enjoy yourself first. Like, you can't actually live a life where you have very little enjoyment and then expect a person to magically appear in your life and give you enjoyment. And it's true, if you're not in touch with the love within yourself, like if you don't feel the presence of love within yourself when you're on your own, chances are you're not going to feel that with another person either. Like, it's just because it's all internally generated. Like, you need to feel it within yourself before you can share the feeling with someone else. That's how I would phrase it, probably, more than like love yourself, because I don't know, like loving yourself is not like a thing for me. But I think feeling like the energy of love in your life, that's something real. Like, you can be in touch with the feeling of love, the energy of love. And then if you can feel that within yourself, you can share it with as many people as you want. You can start like recognizing it in others.
That's really interesting. I remember many years ago there was a guy who was a dating coach that I knew, and he wrote an article once, and he said he went on a date with a girl and she found him really, really attractive because he walked into the local supermarket with her and everyone knew him. And so he kind of embodied what you're talking about, that he was just this very naturally loving guy. And so when everyone knew him, and it was so unusual, that's not how most of us act. it really stood out for her. And so what I hear is not about loving yourself. It's like, letting that shine through, if you like, everywhere. And if you're having bad relationships elsewhere in your life, maybe you need to have a look at, maybe examine that a little bit deeply before you try and find someone to make you feel happy and fix everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, because ultimately, I think we need to see that, like, how we do one thing is how we do everything. Like, if you find connection difficult in the supermarket, like, connection will be difficult everywhere. Like, it's just, connection is connection. Like, I think where we get tripped up is that we make connection with someone that we're sexually attracted to into something different than connection with small kids and connection with pets and connection with, like, people we're not sexually attracted to. Like, if we make, like, connection is connection. It's just one thing. I think we make it really difficult for ourselves when we say, well, I know how to connect with friends, but how do I do that with someone if I'm attracted to them? Like, the thing is, then you really have to really take an honest look at it and say, well, how is it different? Like, why would it be different? Ultimately, why would it be different? And the more you see it as different and the more you make it up as like something separate in your mind, the harder it's going to be for you to date and to have nice relationships, like nice romantic relationships. Because every time we make something into a thing, we make it really hard for ourselves. Like, it's really, all human beings work in the same way. Like, connection is a universal thing. Enjoying yourself is a universal thing. It's no different whether you're on a date or whether you're hanging out with your best friend. Like, it's no different. Enjoying yourself always comes from the same place. Like, it's always the same source. It's always the same thing going on in your mind. I think the best advice I could give to people is, if you want to become really good at dating and relationships, like, observe your mind when you're with your best friend. Like, just kind of look at how your mind functions, like how open it feels and how relaxed it feels and how you don't take things personally. Like, it's just like you allow your best friend to be whoever he is or whoever she is, and like, you don't try to change them, you don't try to control them. Like, it's so relaxed. Like, your mind is very diffuse. Like, your thinking is very diffuse when you're with your best friend. And then you meet someone that you're sexually attracted to, and you're like your mind closes down and you become very rigid and you think about all the rules and what should I do and what is the person thinking, and everything becomes personal. If the person looks at another like woman, like, it's like a huge deal. But the thing is, when you're with your best friend and like he looks at another woman, like, who cares? Like, it's like, why is it different? Like, I think you really need to ask yourself this question, like, how is this different? How is it different? And you're going to come to the conclusion that you're making up the differences. It's not different. You just made up this set of imaginary rules around dating that make it really complicated and hard and like very dramatic.
Some would say that there is a difference between friendship and someone that you're dating. And one thing that people would say is that it's great to start off as friends and get to know each other, but then how do we take it to the next step? And guys might ask that, and girls might ask that. How do we go from nice couple of dates, but take it further and not let it fizzle out?
Well, I think that's interesting, because I know it's a really big deal for many people, and I don't see it as something really difficult, in a sense that if you're really present in the moment, at every moment when you're with a person, you're going to just hear like a question come up or like a thought come up, and if you allow yourself to to just go with that impulse, you're always going to know what to do next. Like you're going to know that, I'll give you an example. I was attending a seminar a couple of months ago, and I met this guy that I really liked. Well, we just kind of connected. Like, he was just a really nice person, like he was just a really nice guy. And the thing is, that happens all the time when you go to seminars or conferences, right? Like, that's my experience. Like, you just meet someone and you really connect and you like them. And then like, we just spent a lot of time together during that conference, and then we actually started dating. And a friend of mine who saw it all happen from a distance came up to me and she said, well, how do you know if it's more than just a nice person you're connecting with at a conference? Like, how do you know that you can take this next step? Like, how do you know if there's potential for more or not? And I kind of thought about it, and I was like, well, like, why is that a question for her? Like, I didn't get like where it became complicated for her. And the cool thing is, she was a coach, so I just kind of asked her, well, when you're sitting with a client and like you just have this thought coming up, oh, I want to ask him about this, like, do you just ask, or do you like sit and think about it? And she's like, no, I just ask. And I'm like, well, do the same with the people you meet at the conferences. Like I'll be sitting with someone and I'll say, well, actually, like, I really feel like hugging you. Is that okay? Like, like, and if the person says no, then that's fine. And if the person says yes, you hug them. And like, you kind of, like, if you don't make it into a big deal, you're just going to have like something come up, like you want to do something or you want to say something, and you're just going to try. And there's really nothing more to it. Like, at some point you're going to say, oh, I really want to touch his arm. Like, it's just going to come up, like, I really want to touch his arm. And then you can fight that and like not do it, or you can say, oh, I'll just try, and like, if he pulls his arm away, then I know he doesn't want it, right? Like, I mean, if you're so present in the moment that you can hear the thought, I really want to touch his arm, like, you're never going to become a sexual predator, because like, you're very responsive to like little cues, and you can test out little cues, like small, like micro things, and you're going to see if you can take the next micro step or not. Like, it's going to be very natural. But the thing is, if you repress that, like, if you say, I can't do that, I can't think that, I can't ask that, if you repress everything and your mind becomes very kind of tense, then you might just like keep in so much energy that all of a sudden you explode and you ask like a really aggressive question and it comes across like completely wrong, like I don't know, like, you spend the whole evening with a guy and he's really nice and he's really normal, and then like out of nowhere he's like, do you want to have sex? Like, that would be weird, right? But if during the night, like, you're both really relaxed and like you're really present to the moment, you're going to know by the end of the evening if you want to have sex or not. Like, it's not going to come as like a big surprise, like a big like pent up question. Like, I think we just need to like slow down our minds and be really present with the person at every moment, and be present with like what's going on for yourself. Like, just little thoughts that come up, little questions that you want to ask, really little things you want to do. Like, if it's moving like 1 inch closer to the person and see if they move away or they stay put, or you move your hand a bit closer to the person and you see, like, it's really simple if you take it one step at a time and if you go really slowly.
I was going to say, in terms of the approach, it's very childlike,
and
and
it's
children,
very innocent.
Yeah, very innocent and very childlike, and children don't really seem to have as much of an issue as adults do in terms of connecting, and they say what's on their mind, and they, like, you can imagine a little kid going, oh, I want to hug you, and give you a hug, and it's I guess it's where you're coming from, it's a very innocent place, and I can imagine that connecting very well with people.
And you need to have nothing on it. Like little kids, Like, like I don't know if you've observed like 2-year-olds, like they have no thinking about rejection. Like they'll say, pick me up, and you're like, no, and they're like, no, pick me up. Like they don't get like all closed down because you say no. Like they still want what they want, and like they're not ashamed of wanting what they want, and they'll ask for what they want even if the other person says no. Like, and I think we can all learn from that. Like just you want what you want and you feel how you feel, and then it doesn't matter like how the other person reacts really if you have nothing on it, like if you know your happiness doesn't depend on it, your future doesn't depend on it, like it's it's okay if someone doesn't like you, or like it's okay if someone doesn't want to see you again. If you're okay no matter what, you can just be you, like do you say whatever you want to say, like it's there's nothing at stake. And it's true, we can all learn from kids, like that childlike innocence of just wanting what you want when you want it, and not having a lot of thinking about expressing that. And it doesn't matter if the other person doesn't want what you want. Like it's not the end of the world if you say, I would love to see you again, and the other person says, well, you're a really nice person, but I don't really want to see you again. Like if you're strong enough, if you're in your health to such an extent that you're like, oh, well, okay, have a nice evening, then you're so free to do whatever you want. Like you never have to be afraid of going on a date ever again if you're not afraid of just the fact that other people want what they want and you want what you want, and that doesn't always coincide, and that's okay.
I think I know what you're going to say to this, but some people go into dating very systematically, and they at least have some idea of the kind of person that they want. They might have, some people have long checklists. Some people might just say, well, these are a few things that are important to me. Is any of that important?
I think it's good to have standards. I think it's good um to have a vision for yourself, like a pipe dream. Like you have this vision of the kind of relationship you want. Like for example, let's say you you actually want to get married one day. Like that's your vision, that's your dream. Then I think it's it's good to keep that as a dream and as a vision. But once you're on a date, you have to forget about that. Like if you apply it to kind of internet dating, if what you're looking for is a husband or a wife, you should definitely write that down in your profile, right? Like don't go like, oh, I'm just dating casually. If you're like you really want to get married, like it's good to just be very clear about that. Like I want to get married. So you're clear, you know that that's what you want. The other person knows. So and you can have a list of things that you want from, like, you know you can make up whatever list of things that you find important in a mate. And it's different for everyone, like what is important and what's not important. But the thing is, once you're on a date, you really have to forget about that list. Like it's just the list is almost like just it's like a pre-selection, you know like that you will pre-select certain people if you're very clear on what you want. But once you're actually on a date, you just have to completely forget that and just say, I'm just going to enjoy this person as much as I can, exactly the way he is, and just I'm just going to enjoy this date for the sake of this date, not because I want to get married. And if you approach dating in that way, I think you are definitely going to find the person that you're looking for. Like you are going to end up in the type of relationship you want, but you can't be obsessed about it. Like you need to know what you want and then let go of it. Just kind of see what the moment brings, like see what opportunities life brings. because you can't live your life in theory. Like you can't find a mate in theory in your mind. Like you still have to come down to earth, like come down to the moment and connect with a real human being who's like, and people are never going to be exactly like the way you imagined. Like most people end up marrying people that are quite different from like, what they imagined like their life partner would be like. So like you can have an idea, you can have a dream, you can have a list of attributes you want in a mate, but once you're on a date, just enjoy the person exactly as they are, and you might see that they're not exactly like they don't correspond exactly to your list of requirements, but you enjoy them so much you don't care, you know? Like and I think ultimately that's the only way to date. Like you just you enjoy the person so much that you don't care about your list anymore. But of course, I mean you're free to have a list that is as detailed as you want. But if you're going to keep it in your mind, it's going to prevent you from connecting with people. So you're going to end up just dating your list and never dating a real person. It's like you have to choose, like, if you want to live your life in your head or live your life in connection with other people.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I'm reminded of my date with the girl who's now my fiance, and it was exactly that. It wasn't, and I didn't have a list or anything, but we didn't. Neither of us thought, oh well, this is going to end up we're going to get married, but we did just enjoy each other, and you're right, because you then see things that are like that. I couldn't imagine being with anyone else now, and see the perfection in us as a couple. Although we are not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it's things that I wouldn't have put down on a list.
Exactly, because you don't know. Like your intellectual mind doesn't know. Like you can try, to make up like a perfect profile, but it will just be perfect in your mind. And ultimately, like you're going to have to just live your life at some point, like with real people and real situations, and what's going to define the quality of your life and the quality of your relationships is your ability to just be in the moment and be with this person in relation, like in connection. So yeah, I think if there's one skill that you want to, become really good at is the capacity to enjoy other people and to enjoy yourself and to enjoy the moment. The capacity to find enjoyment in every moment. If you can get better at that, you're going to do great in all areas of your life. Like you're going to become great at networking, at finding clients, at like getting things done in the garage like when you need it. Like it's just it all comes from being really good at being in the moment and being very present and having your mind being relaxed and diffuse.
Something that that I hear from both men and women is you can ask them. So you went on a date. How was it? I don't know. Right? I hear that a lot. So how do people know if a date was successful?
I only have one criteria that is useful for me and that I think is useful for others, and that's how much did you enjoy it? Like if you really enjoyed the date, then it was definitely a success. And there is no other criteria because some people say, well, I went on like 5 dates with this person and it didn't lead anywhere, so it was all one big failure. It was all a waste of time. But the thing is, if you're going to look at life like that, your whole life is going to be one big waste of time because you're going to end up dying. Like, it's like I mean, life ends badly for everyone, right? Like ultimately, we're all going to die. So
this is a happy podcast.
yeah,
Just want to leave it on a
no, but
morbid
I
note.
think this is a good thing. Like, I think being aware of the impermanence in life and the fact that things change and you never know how things are going to turn out is the secret to happiness. Because if you see a date that you really enjoyed as a successful date, then you can have just a really successful dating life, even if you never end up getting married. Like, you're going to have a great life, you're going to have great connections with people, your life is going to be a succession of wonderful moments of connection with other human beings. So for me, that's the definition of success. But if you're going to define the successfulness of a date depending on the final outcome, then most of your dating life is going to be a failure, right? Because most of us only get married like once or like maybe twice in our lives, right? So all the other dates will be failures. Like any date that doesn't lead to marriage will be failure. But I don't think that's a really like satisfying way to look at life. It's if you have 100 really nice dates that you really enjoy, then I think that's big success, regardless of whether it leads to marriage or not. And if you have a really nice relationship that lasts 3 months, I think that's a great success. Even if you end up breaking up, it's still a successful relationship because you had a great time for 3 months. You had a really nice connection for 3 months. So that to me is a successful relationship. That's real success to me.
Again, another question is, let's say you're dating someone, and I think initially when people are dating, you're getting to know each other. Some people find it a struggle to be, absolutely honest. And let's say you're dating a guy and you really, or a girl, either way, and you really like the other person, but you feel it's going a little bit quickly. How can people address that? Because I think that's an area people really struggle with. And then they can close up and not communicate, which then it makes it worse.
I think again the secret is in just really being in the moment and really being yourself. Like I can't actually like count the number of times that someone told me, like in a very clear and very simple way, this is what I see, this is what I feel, I don't really feel comfortable about this, but I really like that. How should I tell this to the other person? And my answer is always like, well, why don't you just tell them what you just told me? And then the person kind of looks at me and says, well, is that an option? Like, can I just say it as it is? And I'm like, what else? Like, why would you want to do it any other way? Like, why would you want to make it more difficult? Why would you want to use other words? Why don't you just say it as it is? Like, very simply. Like, most people, like, if they're just talking to their best friend or their coach or, just even just some stranger, like on the bus or at a conference, they can say things just really simply, like just the way it is. And then they get in their head and they're like, but how am I going to tell this to this person? And like, they think all of a sudden they should say it differently. But you really don't. Like, you can just say things just the way you would explain it to your best friend. Like, imagine you tell your best friend, I'm dating this guy and he's really nice and I like him, I like this and this and this about him. But I feel like he's a bit too intense, like he wants things to go a bit too fast and it makes me a bit nervous. Like, how should I tell him? Well, just tell him exactly that. Like, just tell the person what you have to say as if he was your best friend. Like, just be you. Say it in the simplest possible way without overthinking it, without making it too complicated. And I think this is true in all situations. Like, people will tell me, I want to be a coach, but right now, I'm still working in IT, and so I'm actually working in IT, but I would love to be a coach, and I also really like whatever massage. And they're like, how should I tell this to people when I meet them? And I'm like, just tell them that. Like really just tell them, like right now you're working in IT, but you would love to be a coach and you're really interested in massage. Like what's the problem? Like why do you need to make it like into this big thing? Tell people things as you see them in the moment. And it's going to come out differently every time you say it, but you just say it as you see it in the moment, to the best of your ability, in the most simple way possible, and just honestly. Like just you don't try to make it sound any different than it is.
So one I guess final question, which is one thing that I hear a lot from women is about getting physical. So, well, I'm not sure. What if he's after me just for my body? What if he only wants one thing? Do I get physical? When do I do it? What's your view on all of that sort of stuff?
You know how I said dating should be done as kind of something that's valuable in and out of itself and not like as a means to an end. You know, like I think you should see a date as like just an occasion to really enjoy yourself, regardless of like what it leads to. And I think we would all really benefit. And this is a bit controversial, but I think we would all really benefit is if we could see sex as just what it is in the moment and not see it as a means to an end and like something like more than what it is. Like, I think if you can just be present in a moment and if you can ask yourself, like, do I really want to have sex now? Like, regardless of what happens afterwards. Like, do I still want to do it if it doesn't lead to marriage? Like, can I really enjoy this as like at face value? Like, can I enjoy this evening just as a nice evening, or do I see it as more, or a way to get commitment, or a way to get love, or a way to get reassurance? Like, and I think if you can see it as just what it is and as valuable in the moment as a standalone thing, then I think you should do it. But if you actually are trying to use sex as a means to an end, I think you shouldn't do it. Like, let's say you say, well, you know, I don't really want to have sex, but like if I don't, I'm afraid he's going to leave. Don't have sex. Like, you need to do it just because it feels right in the moment as a standalone thing, like as a valuable thing in and out of itself in the moment that you really want to do in the moment. You cannot see it as a kind of something that becomes conditional, or that you know, that you don't really want in the moment, but you know, you're hoping in the long term it will turn out. Like, or you also can't use it to get something else. Like, just like I don't think you should date with the sole purpose of finding a husband. Like, I think the purpose of a date should be to have a good time, not to find a husband. So I think the same thing is true for being physical or sexual with someone. If you say, you know, I need to have sex so I'm reassured about the fact that this person is really attracted to me, or, you know, it will make him commit, or it will make him stay, then you're using it as a tool to get something else than pleasure in the moment. And I don't think that ever works out. Like, sex is not a tool to get something in the long term. Like, if you use it as a tool, it's probably not going to work out for you in the long run. Like, you can't use it as a tool to manipulate someone or influence them or keep them, or like it's just like a date. It's just an opportunity to just enjoy yourself and have a good time in the moment. And I know that's a bit controversial, like not everyone can see it that way, but it makes your life a lot easier if you can see sex as something that has its own value in the moment and that you want to do in the moment for no other reason than you just really want to do it.
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us and answering all those questions. I think we've covered an awful lot of things that people may have on their mind around dating and meeting other people and the beginning bit of a relationship. If people want to know more, if they want to find out more about you or contact you, what's the best way that they can do that?
Well, they can find more information about me on my website. Maybe you can link to my website, like somewhere around, where you put the podcast. But it's just my first name, Veronique, then a little hyphen, and then my last name, pivetta.com. And you can also find me on Facebook, Veronique Pivetta Coaching. And people can always write me an email. It's veronique@pivetta.be. So I'd be very happy to connect with anyone.
Fantastic. People can, as always, connect with me via my website, which is ankushjain.co.uk. Send me a message. If you click on the blog section, you'll see all the previous episodes. And we're coming to the end of this series, but I'm looking forward to doing a few more before we finish. Veronique, thank you very much for being on the show with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It was a great honor to be on your show.
Thanks for listening to the Relationship Series podcast. If you want to hear more, you can click the subscribe button below. You can share this and impact someone else who can benefit, or you can like it and encourage others to listen. Also, it'd be great if you leave me a comment below, as I always love hearing from listeners and I want to keep creating great content for you. Thanks for listening.